Whenever anyone says marketing problems, they think immediately of things like the volume of new patient leads, website traffic, social traffic, return on ad spend, and all sorts of stuff like that. But are those really truly the biggest marketing problems? Well, my guest today says they are not, and I agree with him. If those aren't the biggest marketing problems, then what are the biggest marketing problems? Well, you're going to have to listen and find out. I'm Carl White, principal at Market Advisory Group, which is a healthcare marketing agency, and I'm also the host of Practice Care. The mission for both is the same, and that's to help private practice owners stay private. It's usually what they want, and care is better, I believe, when those who are making the clinical decisions are making all of the other decisions about the practice, business, clinical, and otherwise, because that way we can rest assured that the patient care of the patient, anything related to the patient is being considered above par with all those other decisions, because that's why a practice exists in the first place. It's just better when it's privately owned. My guest today, my returning guest, is Jake Goetz. Since 2003, Jake has given group seminars and training on sales and marketing. He's a key opinion leader for various dental marketing companies. Since 2013, Jake has personally consulted with more than 5,600 dentists nationwide on their marketing strategies and sales skills to reduce unnecessary spend while increasing collections. Jake founded GOAT Dental Marketing, that's GOAT Dental Marketing Consultants, in early 2023, providing marketing strategy and sales coaching for dental offices across the country. Jake, with his wife and two daughters, enjoy living and playing in the mountains of northern Utah, which he said before we started recording, for him at least, is much better in the summer than when it's snowing out. So you're going to have to defend that one, Jake. But welcome back to Practice Care.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. It's always fun to talk to you and catch up and see where these conversations lead
Yeah,
us.
do a little marketing riff, which people who like marketing, like Jake and I, that's a fun thing.
Yeah.
Um, if you haven't listened to another of Jake's episodes, then you're meeting him for the first time. So, Jake, do us the courtesy, just tell us a bit more about you, about your agency. Help us get to know you.
Yeah, so I started this, like you said, a couple of years ago after about a dozen years working for agencies, just, selling everything from postcards to digital marketing services to dentists mostly. And because of your relationship, I expanded out of dental just this year. I haven't even told you that yet, but
Wow.
yeah, in fact, one of your listeners called me and said, "Hey, I know you're focused on dental, but I'm a concierge doctor, and I would love to pick your brain on the free report that I threw out to the audience last time."
Oh,
So
good. Okay.
that ended up opening our eyes to some really fun stuff. And we are really a data analysis group. We
Mhm.
geek out over the data. I believe that if you're going to be a king over your kingdom, if you look at, we've all heard data is king, right? I look at
Mhm.
it as no, you're a business owner. You are the king or the queen of your
Mhm.
own business. The kingdom is the content, right? And the data is what teaches you everything about your people. And if you don't understand your people, then you'll never get your content right, your
And by your
messaging.
people, you mean like your target audience, not your staff per
Yeah.
se. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So we now work in a lot of different industries that we've been doing over these past few months. We've been analyzing just consumer data as a whole.
Mhm.
And but yeah, I've done this. My background, I graduated in professional sales, and that morphed into learning about marketing messaging to make
Mhm.
sales efficiencies better.
Mhm.
And in doing that, I still have a passion for sales, but I really, really love analyzing the data, finding ways to communicate with people much more clearly
Mhm.
in order to streamline the entire patient or customer experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've said often deeper insights win, and
Mhm.
hard to be deeper without good data. Um, I'm also with it because, while data can be made to lie, numbers don't lie, so to speak, and it's easy to do so when you don't have good data. Yeah, it just clarifies things. Like, can we get past this idiotic argument because the data says what it says? Now let's stop arguing and move forward. So it's good to hear, and I'm glad. Thank you for letting me know that um, listeners are taking action. That's great. I hope it's working out. Um, so we're talking today about marketing problems. These are not, on the one hand, the problems that we're going to talk about are not only marketing, they're kind of universal. They're more like sort of leadership qualities, I would say, but they certainly apply to marketing and they lead to a lot of the problems and frustrations that I sort of opened with about leads and traffic and such. So let's just go through them. This is more about, opening statements than questions. The first one we talked about was setting expectations. So this is a problem when expectations are not properly set. What's your reaction to that? What are some expectations you see in marketing that are sort of misunderstood or misexpected, or we can sort of riff on that one? What do you see?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the onboarding process with any marketing agency,
Mm,
any marketing partner who's helping you. If you are not able to clearly articulate what it is that you're currently seeing and doing and understand the difference of your status quo to where you want to be,
mm,
then the agency is only going to go as far as your current online presence is currently representing you.
mhm,
So oftentimes, I'll spend a lot of time during those first 30 days asking questions where almost to the point of annoyance, where I've had owners and practice owners tell me, "Man, didn't I already answer this?" And it's like, well, no, not as well as I need
mhm,
it to be answered.
mhm,
And didn't we already talk about this, Jake? It's like, no, we scratched the surface, but there's a purpose and a deeper understanding
mhm,
that I need to make sure we understand. What's the mission and the vision of your practice?
mhm,
And are you telling that story? And do we have content already procured that's out there?
mhm,
Or do we need to go and get more content and order somebody to come in and, a filmographer, a videographer, whatever,
mhm.
photographer to capture that content so that we can help you bridge that gap?
So what's the expectation that you're seeing that's not happening the way it should?
I think that it's really I think it comes down to if you are not discussing the goals
Hmm.
and the budget to get to those goals,
Yeah.
then you can't really set any expectation. Where are we going to spend that money? How are we going to spend that money? And how long until that money is going to
Yeah.
represent your,
Yeah.
your return and really the outcome for us to make a knowledgeable decision.
I get it.
I always tell people I need 90 days. Like I
Hmm.
I can't just, flip a switch and in a week I can tell you that we've accomplished the goal.
Hmm.
Sometimes you're not going to even learn what needs to be done for at
Hmm.
least 90 days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's the timing from
Hmm.
an expectation standpoint,
Hmm.
as well as the budget. And
Hmm.
and I don't love it when somebody says, "Oh, I had," like there's nothing worse as a business owner. I just had this with one of my developers. He told me 2 weeks and $2,500 and it would be done. Well, 3 days in, he said, "This is actually a $7,500 project, Jake, and it's going to
Jesus.
take us a month and a half." And I'm like, "Okay, where did that come from?
Hmm.
Because 72 hours ago, that's not what you were telling me."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that that's a really, really big part of it is, do we have a strong enough plan of setting the expectation, and have we communicated why we're doing it the way that we are? So, and is there an openness
Hmm.
to a reevaluation of that
Yeah.
in another 60 days, 90 days, whatever the timeline is?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I totally agree. What can we expect this marketing plan to do? Well, um, it depends on what the goal is. I'm a volunteer marketing chair of an organization, and I'm asked every once, Carl, we need a marketing plan. Great. What's the growth goal? Crickets and tumbleweed. No answer. Well, then I'm not going to start because um, it's a small marketing plan for a small growth goal. It's a large plan. So you guys want to tell me what it is, the requirement is. And then the second part is, and how much time for what budget? I need to double in a year, but I only have $500. Save your money or find some other way because no,
Right,
it doesn't work that way
right,
necessarily. So expecting, you know, I'll give you a plan without knowing what it's pointing towards. That's at least a bad expectation for, for pennies, for these things matter. And it's the same thing in any other part of a practice, any other part of a business. There's the size of the goal dictates to a degree the time and money. And if it needs to go faster, you need to spend more to a point. So but yeah, I love marketing, but some in our industry, they'll say, okay, Maybe that's what happened to you with this website project. The person just wanted to get the business, and then they'll tell you the rest. I don't know exactly. I don't know at all. But yeah, just say it up front. I mean, um, I had a prospective client this morning. We walked through and I just said, you know what? You don't need me. You really don't. I'm going to show you why. You should do these other things instead. There's just, don't expect me to do any better than the results you already have because they're really, really good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rock
Well,
that boat.
and that goes hand in hand with the other topic of today's call and this discussion is communication.
Yeah, let's just bleed the two together because right, they're intertwined.
Yeah, and I have an incredible client with some of the highest level of patience and business acumen of any dentist I've worked with.
Hmm.
She's in one of the most saturated, low-income Medicaid areas in the country.
Mm.
And it is a very challenging market in order to find the quality that she wants.
Hmm.
And so when she came to me a year ago, almost, I mean, it's been 10 months now, I said, look, you're not doing yourself any favors in this location.
Hmm.
Like, this is not going to be easy. What's the budget? And she gave me a budget of $3,000 a month. And I said, oh, I was hoping you were going to have like a one in front of that, like a minimum of like
Mm.
10 to $15,000. And she said, look, I'm not opposed to spending that, but you got to prove to me that we can get an ROI. And I said, great. Are you open to just keeping this an open dialogue when it comes to budget, when it comes to pivoting? Because we don't know what we don't know in your market. It had been 5 or 6 years since I had run a campaign in that market for her. And she said, just continue to talk to me like this, be really candid, and we're going to do just fine.
Okay.
And that was the expectation, was that we were going to have radical candor in
Hmm.
every conversation.
Hmm.
And as uncomfortable as that was in the first few months of her sending emails that I could have read into as she's undermining my decisions, she was just genuinely curious and she didn't have time to sugarcoat it and make it
Hmm.
sound nice in an email.
Hmm.
She has a really bad digital voice. And and I appreciated that because she warned me. She said, Jake, there are times that I'll fire back a text with my thumbs
Hmm.
and I don't give it a second read and it might come across as really, really upset. You just need to know that's how I operate. So she gave me fair warning and
Hmm.
about 3 months in of these conversations, and I finally got on a call with her and said, look, I I got to tell you, this candor went to a whole new level. Like, I feel like you hate me and we're failing you every
Hmm.
time I read your text. And she goes, no, no, no. I knew this was going to take time. Thanks for bringing it up.
Hmm.
I'm really not upset. You will know when I'm upset.
Jeez.
Well, three
Seems like you
months,
already are.
yeah, 3 months later, she's like, okay, now I'm getting very frustrated and you need to know I am upset because I've spent X and
Hmm.
I'm not seeing it happen.
Hmm.
Thank you for letting me know, Doc.
Hmm.
Let's revisit the strategy.
Hmm.
We brought in fresh blood. We've brought in all of these additional experts.
Hmm.
Now she's spending $10,000 a month. We've grown it to that budget.
Hmm.
We're barely starting to see the needle move.
Hmm.
And where it ended up coming back full circle is the other topic of today's call, which is accountability.
Hmm.
She, for 6 months, was refusing to accept the fact that her team was struggling.
Hmm.
And I said, look, your leads have doubled.
Hmm. What's
You're not,
going on?
you're only scheduling between 18 and 30% of these new leads on appointments
Hmm.
to come in. And then there's only, 70% of those that are showing up for their appointment. So the problem is not marketing, and she would not have it. She said, "No, my staff handles every call the exact same way. They always have. They're on every lead." And I said, "Well, something's got to give." Well, a few weeks ago, she's like, "That's the best week we've ever had. What did you do differently?" And I wrote back and I said, "Nothing. Send me your stat sheet." Her staff converted 83% of the leads. And I said, "That's the only thing that's different. We literally changed nothing else."
Yeah. And just as a plug, which I didn't see coming. So, listeners, Jake has and I, we have a different episode from a year and a half or so ago. And the title is very close to Managing Leads is More Important Than Generating Them. Here's an example why. I was talking to a client the other day, and they're like, "Yeah, we have a, we're not following up fast enough." And they were nodding their head. I said, "Look, that's got to be priority number one. What is the point of generating more leads if the same problem is there? Like, first fix that, then let's get more leads." So
Yeah.
yes, yes, all the money she was spending and just defending it. So yeah, okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, communication, right? So it's communicating the expectations. You were talking about, I like the way you were describing it. I'm asked every once in a while, in one way or another, what kind of results can you guarantee? And my answer is, you know, I can't guarantee anything. This plan that I have just walked you through, this proposal is designed to work. Obviously, I wouldn't put something I don't think is designed to work, but that's the strongest way I can responsibly say it. This is designed to work.
Yes.
It is designed to make you more visible. It is designed to make you more choosable. However, I cannot control what the viewer does. I can't control what your competition does. These are things totally out of our control. So it's designed to work. And for us, at least, we say the best way I can de-risk this is to say we're month to month. If you're not feeling it, um, that's the way. There's no refunds, but you don't have to keep going. There's no
Right.
there's no penalty if you leave early. There is no leaving early. But that's the best way. But I'm just as transparent as I know how to be, um, because it's just, and it makes sense when you say it to people. And if what's the alternative? You take their money with an "I told you so" conversation coming. Hate those. Everybody loses.
Yeah.
Everybody loses. So why have it?
It's not productive. It doesn't, all it does is raise the frustration. And so with this particular doc, again, she's become one of my favorite clients, even though her area is the bane of my existence. That sometimes you just fall flat in marketing. And I believed that for 6 months. I was like, man, we're not moving the needle. She's showing me her numbers every single month. Production's the exact same. The number of new patients is barely moving,
Mm-hmm.
but the marketing dollars just kept going up and up and up. And we tried four different verticals and channels that she had never tried before. And I thought, this is the one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is designed to work.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I was so, and I don't know if I should say this, on a recorded line, but I was so determined to crack the code that we waived what we were charging her for
Mm-hmm.
our consulting fee. I said, we're gonna apply every dime of this into your marketing because I believe that this is designed to work.
Mm-hmm.
We've put in the work. I'm going to give it 30 days, but I want you to increase your budget by the $3,000 that we were charging her because the amount of time we were putting
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to waive my fee for a month,
Mm-hmm.
but under one condition, you got to give me every one of those dimes to put into your ad budget.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, done, do it.
Mm-hmm.
We did it. Nothing changed. And I
Hmm.
was so mad. I was
Yeah.
like, the data said this would work.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And so second month, I told her again, I said, you know what? I am in this thing with you. We did it again.
Mm-hmm.
Kept $3,000 increased budget. To a third month, we are in the middle of that third month right now where I have not made a dime on her account, but I'm so mad that the design and the data isn't working that I need to learn it.
Yeah. Right. So you're kind of going to school on this. It's not, I see what you mean. Yeah, you're
And
getting
and she's
everybody's.
been very, very grateful and gracious, but during these 3 months, she's still asking me the same really hard questions, and her same digital voice sounds really upset with me.
Has she opened her eyes to or have you guys dug into the conversion rate going up? Like what did the office staff do differently to make that such a great week compared to all the others?
They claim they've done absolutely nothing different. And so
Oh, that's
when
not a
we
good
went,
answer.
yeah, when we went in and looked, they're like, no, 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 they're just better quality leads this week. It was the exact same number of Medicaid callers. It was the exact same number of non-insured or insured out of network. And I said, well, that's the beauty of AI. We're actually funneling all of the audio recordings right now through AI for analysis this week to see if we can pinpoint because they're
Yeah.
what I call unconsciously competent,
Hmm.
right? They did an amazing job, but they don't know what they did different.
Yeah.
So we're trying to analyze that right now. And again, it all comes back to the data. And
So
if
she won't take any of the money that she's spending and reallocate it to like some you do sales training, front desk
So
training. Like it's
yeah, so we haven't
interesting.
done that yet. I think that's the next step is, but I don't want to go into the sales training in this particular scenario until I know what exactly I can bring to their attention that they did differently with an 80% close rate
Yeah,
versus
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
I don't
Okay.
think that's responsible. And
Hmm.
so that's what we're in that process, but it's very fresh on my mind because it is taking up a lot of my team's time and we need to make sense of this
Yeah.
in order to start getting paid again.
Yeah, right. Well, right. So, and that's a lot of communicate, like the importance of communication as a marketing problem between the agency and the client, even inside the marketing agency. Um, it's hard for a client to sort of detect that or screen for that. But it's another one. Like if your own team members aren't talking to each other the way they need to be, or there's not some sort of mechanism set up, that could be, like I've got one partnership we work with where it's hard to say right now because I submit a support request and yes, we'll get on that. And then nothing happens inside and I don't really know what's going on. I'm like, damn it, what's going on in there? So,
Yeah.
um, you know,
Well, one thing we do with communication with our clients that I really love is we try to have a standing set appointment with them.
we do the
And,
same. Yeah.
and by doing that, there is a added level of accountability and layer that just simply by going through that motion, it will naturally increase that accountability with the
Hmm.
team. When they
Hmm.
know I've got a call on Tuesday at 11 o'clock with Jake and his team.
Hmm.
And so we try to have a standing appointment where it's just an opportunity for us to touch base and
Hmm.
address what is going on.
Hmm.
I don't call them follow-ups. I hate the word follow-up. I call it circling back because we are going to head, when you circle back on someone versus follow up on someone, following up feels like you're chasing someone.
Hmm.
So I teach my teams at these practices the same thing. If you're circling back psychologically, you're literally sprinting ahead to get ahead of the problem and facing and approaching them face to face.
Hmm.
It's a much more positive, non-threatening approach than sneaking up on somebody and scaring them with information or data.
Right. Right. Very good.
So I say the same thing in the verbiage of, okay, patient X, we've identified XYZ as the solution to your problem.
Hmm.
Other than what you've expressed for your concern,
Hmm.
why wouldn't you move forward with this today?
Hmm.
You get them to articulate that and say, great. So besides that, is there any other reason?
Hmm.
Make sure you've isolated that objection and
Hmm.
gotten confirmation that that's it.
Hmm.
Then saying, great, can I follow up with you? Uh-uh. Say, I'd like to circle back with you in 3 days after you've had a chance to reassess your finances, reassess, meet with so and so, get a second opinion, whatever it is. I'd like to circle back with you at this date and time.
Hmm.
Is that appropriate? Do you feel like that's a good plan?
Hmm.
Yes. Perfect. Should I text you? Should I call you? Should I email you? Now I've got my correspondence. That's the same cycle of accountability that we have with our patients that we need to have with our employees
Yeah.
and with our marketing vendors.
Right.
Great, Jake. I just gave you an extra $3,000 to try this out. Let's circle back in 10 days.
Hmm.
Is that an appropriate amount of time to see if this pivot is going to move the needle?
Yeah.
Well, no, that type of campaign really needs 30 days.
Hmm.
So let's schedule for same day of the month next month,
Hmm.
same time, and
Hmm.
let's block it off. Let's circle back and reassess.
Yeah.
When you can set that proper expectation and give yourself the opportunity to be held accountable and hold someone else accountable, then the communication is naturally going to be there.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better. I love doing it that way because then I can also text them or call and drop a voicemail when they're with patients to my client and I can say, "Doc, we just had a huge victory I just saw come across when I was analyzing your weekly results. Here's a snapshot of what I just saw." Or
Hmm.
here's a recording of Susie at the front desk. She just crushed that phone call, overcame 5 objections, and scheduled you a massive consult.
Hmm.
Now you're communicating.
Hmm.
Now there's accountability
Yeah.
now. And then the doc can go say, hey, Susie, I just got a voicemail from Jake, said that you killed it on that call. Way to go.
Hmm.
Whoa, someone's paying attention. Boom, accountability's
Yeah.
layered on top of Susie at the front desk on the next call.
Yeah.
That I love the book, The 1 Minute Manager by
Hmm.
Kenneth Blanchard,
Hmm.
because it talks about 1 minute praises, 1 minute reprimands, and 1 minute coaching.
Mm.
And it's that communication and accountability that allows for your expectations to continue to grow.
Correct. Correct. And accountability, like if we were to do a visual of this, it's sort of like the foundation. I mean, if you're not accountable to the stuff you say you're going to do, and you got to think through what you're going to say you're going to do. But at that point, anybody who you're saying that to is going to believe that you are qualified to do it, or at some point they'll believe you're qualified to do it, which means you better be. That's part of accountability is don't overpromise. Yeah, accountability to communicate the expectations to those expectations, to raise issues early. That's another one.
Yeah.
And it's as true in marketing as anywhere else. I forget where I heard this, but it was something to the effect of, tell me early and it's our problem. Tell me late and it's your problem because you should have told me earlier. Um, it's just solving a problem, whatever the problem in life is, the sooner you raise it and solve it, the less painful it's going to be than
Yeah.
if you keep waiting, waiting, waiting. But accountability it's sort of the underlying part of it. I feel like I'm accountable when I say my answer is it's designed to work, but I can't guarantee you these results because that's not how life works. I can't make life work in a way in which it does not. I feel like I'm being uh, just sort of accountable to the what can be expected. It's like these start to intertwine on each other, accountability, communication, and expectations. But you have to be. Otherwise, you know, not only going to create pain, it's going to end badly. And then what have you just done? You just set your own reputation back a year, I don't know,
Oh,
some
yeah.
long period of time, and whose degree of damage is greater than you're ever going to see. Why would you want to do that? You know?
No, I lost a great client practice out of Denver that I had worked with for months. I felt like things were going fairly well, not as fast as we'd like. Everything's a day late and a dollar short in
Yeah.
marketing.
Hmm.
But we felt like progress was definitely being made, and we uncovered an issue one day with the website and one of his business listings it was incorrect.
Hmm.
One of them was pointing in the wrong direction. One of them was calling into a dead cycle of a
Oh,
call, and they couldn't actually get a live person. It just kept cycling them through the call tree of their
got
phone
it.
system. And I identified it. It was on me. I was the one, I told my account, this is one of my favorite clients, or I told my team, this is one of my favorite clients. I'm going to manage it myself. And I saw this and I immediately went to work on it. It took me 3 days and I was fixing, and it was money out the door
Hmm.
every time, and uncovering what was going on with the front desk lady.
Hmm.
We finally get to the bottom of it. And right as I'm like halfway through drafting the email summary of everything that we had to troubleshoot and figure out, I get a text message from the doctor saying, I need to cancel my services, Jake. And I texted him back. I said, I was literally just drafting you an email. Why are we canceling services? And he says, well, I just found this problem this afternoon with my website and with my phone system. I thought I was paying you and your team to stay on top of this. And I said, I have been on top of this for 3 days.
Hmm.
And but I was playing catch up at this point.
Yeah.
The front desk gal was my advocate. We were fixing the problem, but she and neither of us communicated to the business owner and the doctor that we were on it.
Hmm.
So he saw this has been broken all week. Why am I paying goatcmo.com to do all this for me?
Hmm.
And so I get a cancellation notice, and he says, look, I've already hired. And he was so frustrated when he saw that at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I fixed it at 2 o'clock. He texted me at 3 o'clock that he was canceling, even though it was fixed.
Hmm.
And I start my conversation back to him by 4 o'clock. It was too late. He had already made a phone call to a former fractional CMO agency that he had worked with years before. And he said, Jake, I already signed a contract with them. I'm starting with them next week, and please don't
Wow.
bill. And it was that fast. We lost our
Wow.
client. And
Wow.
so again, the accountability and the communication needs to also, I think, be very, very timely and not calculated. Here I was calculating
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm fixing this and I'm going to let him know the victory that we had instead of, oh crap, and then
Hmm.
have to stress over it. I was already stressing over it for 3 days. I
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
have just told him,
Yeah.
we don't know what the problem is. It's going to take us a minute. Bear with us. We're on it.
Hmm.
That would have taken me 10 seconds to send him a text.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yes, there it is. Yeah, the person who's truly not accountable would be denying the whole thing. It wasn't my fault. No, or just something that sort of shooks and jives and avoids. Um, so all right, lesson learned, right? We can always continuous improvement. We can always be improving.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I told my employees this the other day on a call. I said, I'd much rather you tell me immediately, I don't know, but I'll find out,
Hmm.
than yes, I'm on it, only to find out that 2 weeks later you burned yourself out trying to figure it out. We couldn't find a solution. If you
Hmm.
tell me I don't know, I can give you resources as your boss
Right.
in order to fix it.
Yeah.
So, are we cultivating a leadership culture and
Hmm.
a team culture that allows people to screw up?
Yeah. I don't know is a sign of strength. I think it's seen the opposite in some. It's seen as a sign of I should know that. It's a sign of weakness that I don't. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Now, if you say I don't know the same thing multiple times, okay, different story. But nobody knows everything. So totally
Yeah.
agree.
I once
Yeah.
had a COO I worked for a really large call center. I was managing one of the smaller teams, but we were the most profitable team in this call center. And every call counted. I mean, it was
Hmm.
big time money for our business. We were $100 million business.
Hmm.
And I was promoted way too young and way too early, but I showed ambition and promise until I landed in the seat that suddenly was
Hmm.
above what I was experienced to do.
Yeah.
And I remember the COO that I reported to after like 6 weeks of sweating bullets in my weekly meetings with him and totally feeding him a line that I'm on it. I'm doing a great job. I was stressed out of my mind. I didn't
Hmm.
know half
Hmm.
of what he had asked me to do in this new role. 6 weeks in, he asked me the same question again. And finally, I just said, Ben, I don't know, man, but
Hmm.
I'm going to bust my tail to find out. And he
Hmm.
leaned forward and he goes, now you're eligible for the raise. And he gave me a raise. And he said, now you're talking like a VP.
Hmm.
We're problem solving this. I didn't need you to have the answers. I needed to know that you were aware of it and we were willing to work on it together.
Hmm.
And it was one of the best management and leadership experiences that I had, where he taught me something so valuable, which was it's okay that you don't know.
Yeah. Nobody knows everything. Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway,
Exactly. Well, we have covered a lot of ground. Expectations, communication, accountability. These really are three of the big marketing problems, even though they're universal. Um, is there anything you think we should have touched on that we didn't get to in these categories?
no, I think that it starts with yourself. Like, are you being honest with yourself and communicating what you're trying to accomplish? Are you giving yourself realistic expectations and holding
Hmm.
yourself accountable or finding a partner to do that?
Hmm.
As soon as I hired somebody, when I went from being a solopreneur to an entrepreneur and growing a business as a CEO, that was what made the difference for me. Was suddenly I realized that it wasn't just me being optimistic and positive, it was me being honest and raw of,
Hmm.
oh crap, we got to change this, we got to fix this. That was when we
Yeah.
started to grow.
Yeah.
So I think it starts with your own individual between the ears.
Yeah. I agree. Totally agree. Um, the other wrap-up question I typically always ask is it, you know, how can a listener get started on all this? And usually the topics are different. There's some new skill or something they haven't thought of before. But I wonder if this one, I want to change it a bit and say, how can a listener who's looking to outsource marketing or hire an agency or hire somebody, how can they screen for these things? Like one thing I can think of is, you know, it's hard to match expectations to the budget or this or that when you are when you don't know much about marketing, but you can sniff out something that's if it sounds too good to be true. Yes, we can double your lead volume in 25 days. I mean, unless the lead volume's two,
Right.
okay. But if it sounds too good to be true, marketing is a world where go with your spidey sense. It's
Yeah.
probably, that's one thing I think people could just trust your gut,
Right.
you know?
Well, that's the beauty of today's world. Everything is much more openly communicated through the form of consumer reviews. Like we all have
Yeah.
reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I tell people all the time, go read my Google reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Same.
do you want a reference? I'm happy to give you a reference. If you've got somebody who is hesitant to give you a list of references, or you read like if you go to their Google profile and you see that they're 3.3 stars, you might want to double check your
Right.
work.
Right. Right.
Right? But especially in the marketing space, because they know how to buffer that and really
Mm-hmm.
make sure that their reviews are good.
Mm-hmm.
You typically want to be around a 4.5 plus star rating
Mm-hmm.
before you pull the trigger on an established agency.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I say to start. If you don't even know where to begin as far as, okay, how do I start implementing this? What we've talked about today is more of a leadership. A lot of this is leadership principles.
Yeah.
We have a program we built within Goat CMO called Triage, and it's
Okay.
Triage Practice Consultants. And you get three consultants for the price of one. We call it our three-legged stool,
Mm-hmm.
and you literally get access to someone who teaches you how to be a better leader. They
Mm.
do assessments on all your employees so you know how to communicate with them
Mm-hmm.
and hold them accountable and set
Mm-hmm.
expectations in their language.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one consultant. We have another one that then does all the accountability measures
Mm-hmm.
on what to track in the operational components of the practice. And then we have a marketing consultant that helps oversee the strategy for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that triage program it's been a lot of fun. We are three independent businesses that work as a collaborative executive suite, like a C-suite.
Sure.
So we're like a fractional C-suite, and that's been a really popular package for practices and owners that are asking that exact question: where do I start?
Mm-hmm.
We put you through a 90-day program with an assessment at the end to determine if you need continued help or not.
Right. So where it starts then, I guess, is have a honest, realistic expectations of what expectations, communication, and accountability look like in you,
Yeah,
the owner. Because if you don't, which is a tough one, we all think we're better than we really are at all sorts of things. So
right.
it's a tough one. But if you are not an accountable person, you're never going to be able to spot good accountability, you
Well,
know?
and a practical system that you can implement tomorrow is to simply have a standing date and time each week or each month or every
Mm-hmm.
other week with each employee that
Mm-hmm.
reports to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be just your office manager, your administrator, and then each of their employees have the same thing.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a standing meeting
Mm-hmm.
and it's not a reserved designated time that you know is a safe place to discuss what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
then you're always going to be struggling to find a way to hold people accountable, set expectations, and communicate with them.
Correct. Correct. Excellent stuff. As always, we talked marketing a little more, a little off, not off the beaten path, but a little bit of a different angle, not sort of tactical tool stuff or direct stuff, but really important stuff nonetheless. Thank you for coming back on.
Yeah. Thanks
And
for having me.
always good discussions. Yes. And so, listeners, Jake's contact information he has supplied, we'll get them into the show notes for this episode. And now, so if anybody wants to contact him, then we've got another way to do so. Couple quick points before we wrap up. First, please subscribe to Practice Care if you haven't done so already. Practice Care is one word. We're super easy to find on every player and platform. We drop a new episode every week, and that's the easiest way to get notifications about when a new episode drops. And finally, if you're like Jake or us, you serve private practice owners, or if you're a private practice owner yourself and you've got some experience on the business side of private practice you think your peers would benefit from, we want you to come on Practice Care and tell everybody about it. In the show notes for Jake's episode and each and every episode, there's a link. It takes you just a minute, not even. Tell us what's on your mind, and we'll get you scheduled as soon as we can. Thanks very much, and until next time.